Mark. Well, it would not be a Zoom call if somebody had to be told to unmute their microphone. Want to try that again?
And I can contribute to the liveness of this event.
And what an event. First off, I was not quite expecting that really charming slideshow that has changed and quite sort of our life before us flashing before our eyes going back. I think this is our 14th CT Live. So happy Friday to everybody. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, James. I'm grateful for the work of the City Theater staff to get 14 City Theater Live events up and to make them all interesting too. They've been great conversations, and we've been able to host a lot of guests who are artists making contributions to the field, and also community members and other people who have something to say about the moment that we're in. So thanks to Claire and to Nikki and to the whole City Theater staff for helping to make all of that possible.
Yeah, it really was. It's quite stunning just how quickly we pivoted to this, and I echo your gratitude to everybody. Obviously, talking about our community and our hearts are out there with both everyone here in Western PA as we continue to battle the COVID crisis, and across the country, obviously some distressing news in other parts of the country. So just echo it, everyone wear your masks and take good care of everyone, I think, as we move forward. So as we're sort of at our grand finale, we've got a whole bunch of bells and whistles ready to go. We've got a lot of guests today. We've got an expanded CT Live, and don't want to take up too much time before we go to those guests and some really exciting announcements and partnerships. But first, let's maybe just look back the last few days. Mark, on Wednesday night, we had our final partnership reading of our Digital Momentum Festival of the season with City of Asylum, and some of your good friends were our guests that night. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It was the company Universes, which is a group of performers and writers and musicians that I've known for over 20 years. And we've been working together over that span of time on a variety of projects. This was their latest piece, and it's a play called Americus. It was so ambitious on the stream on Wednesday. We had a few technical difficulties. Those were mostly due to how ambitious they are, and they wanted to make it a very fully integrated musical theater event on the platform, and I think the technology just didn't quite get there to support it. So, but I found a way to. I don't know how you felt, but I watched it, I listened to it, and you could certainly hear it. It's just disconcerting to see the mouths not lined up with the performers all the time. So
they are dynamic. How did you first? You've known them for a lot of years. How did you first meet them?
I watched them at a TCG conference, and then I saw them at New York Theater Workshop with their first piece, which was called Slangwage. I then went to see them at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe. This was in the 90s. And when I got to Actors Theater of Louisville, the first year that I was there, I invited them to curate part of that festival, and we did so in partnership. And then we did 3 projects together in Louisville over the span of the 11 years that I was there. And I've continued to they're just my friends too. Mm-hmm. So we're particularly lucky to have them in our orbit right now.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. It's really excited about what they may bring to the future of the American theater. It's their dynamic group. Also, earlier this year, we announced we'd received a grant from the Allegheny Regional Asset District for a project that's really about infusing the community, and that'll be coming down the pike in the months ahead. But part of that are a lot of partnerships with community members and community groups. And we have a workshop coming up this summer, and I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about the Prize Academy partnership that we have coming up next month.
The Prize Academy, has worked with us on a number of projects over a span of time, and we're particularly interested in this one because this project that we're doing with the Regional Asset District is focused on the immigrant experience, and particularly as it relates to Pittsburgh, past, present, and future. And their perspective, I think, is going to make a major contribution to the content of the play that we're writing. With Jim McManus and Cornerstone Theater and the whole creative team. So we're doing a workshop this summer with Montez leading it, and Our whole education staff has contributed to the thinking and the process behind it. It'll be an implementation of the Young Playwrights Initiative and programs that we have ongoing in the schools. So I think it's going to be a great example of how all the different parts of City Theater come together to make the work that we make, and how there really is a blended line between the education program and what shows up on our stage. It's all part of our own commitment to the community and to our core values and to the kinds of exchanges of ideas and art that we believe in.
Great, thank you. Speaking of partnerships, we have a new one to talk about now. So I want to invite Claire to come on and join us. Hi, Claire.
Hi, how's it going?
Great. I'm going to let the two of you take it from here. I'll be back in the show in just a little bit. So take it away.
Thanks,
Yeah,
James.
absolutely. It's exciting and exciting to be at the season finale of CT Live. I'm in the office today, so it feels strange to be calling in from my desk. But I'm really thrilled to get a chance to talk about this a partnership with Point Park University. You know, I think over the summer we've been working digitally on ways that we can offer artists a voice in this moment. So I'm excited to invite on Stephen Breeze and Drew Martorella from the Pittsburgh Playhouse. So welcome to Stephen and Drew. And so we're just really thrilled to actually get to launch a new partnership with you and do just that, to continue offering artists a space to share work and create work in this current moment. So what we've done is commission 5 micro commissions from playwrights who are all either Point Park alumni or part of the Pittsburgh playwriting community, or in many cases both. So that's Ngozi Anyanwu, Marcus Stevens, Mark Clayton Souther, Tammy Ryan, and Matt Palfrey. So welcome, Drew and Stephen. Thank you so much for joining with us in this. How are you both doing today?
Doing great, Claire, thanks.
Doing great. It's great to be here on CT Live.
Thank you for joining us at our Facebook land. So I'm wondering, maybe, we could actually just start out, this is a project that was born out of the COVID crisis. So we've talked a lot about that on the show. Do you want to just share how's Point Park, how's the Playhouse, been affected by COVID?
Well, you want to start, Drew?
No, you go.
Okay.
I'll start. Yeah, you start. Frame it for us, and I'll jump in.
Like most theaters in the country, virtually all theaters in the country, last spring, of course, we were forced to close down. We had to cancel 9 different dance and theater productions in the spring, which was painful because many of them were about ready to open and well rehearsed. It was a very painful process. But since then, of course, we've been regathering and sort of reinventing and looking at what we want to do next. And there are many things on the docket, but we are right now drafting really a comprehensive package of how we're going to manage any live performances that we do next year, so that we keep our students, our faculty, our staff, our guest artists, and of course our audiences safe. And we feel very good about being able to get in the rehearsal hall and into performance and produce. But it's a big task, and we know that it's going to take not only just time, but it's also going to change our entire protocols in some ways. But once they become ritualized, we really hope, they will become easier to maintain. But it's one step at a time. But this summer, what we're doing this summer with City Theater is moving towards a more digital portion of our season. And maybe Drew can talk about that, because we're also wrapping some of that into our fall season, we hope.
Yeah, it'd be great, Drew, just to hear you sort of describe the project itself that we're working on together, and where it came from and what you hope to achieve.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, where did it come from? It came from the ethic and the idea that while this crisis was, we had to dismantle all of our planned activities, and almost immediately we still are here. We didn't go away. Right. I mean, and resolutely, just as an arts organization, refused to be silenced by this crisis. And I think that there are still stories to be told. And when we first were thinking about this and what we could, possibly do this summer, we were in the moment of the pandemic, and then we entered a whole other world with the murders of George Floyd and others, which completely overtook us, and this moment of anti-racism, which has also kind of swept us up as well. And this is an extended moment that we are all in. And as arts organizations, we needed to have a voice in this. And so what we hope to accomplish was to make possible the telling of stories. And so we were having an idea about how maybe to have that, and we're looking for a partner and a collaborator. And we just really knocked on your door, and you opened the door, you invited us in, and we've come up with this project we're calling Homegrown Stories, which I might add is an extension of a new play development work that Stephen had initiated back in the fall. So it felt like a perfect fit. But it allows us to, I think, to be really present artistically, in the moment. And I'm really pleased and proud that we were able to get this collectively off the ground, and to partner with you, and of course working with Claire has just been wonderful. So we're honored to be here today and to have the seat at the table.
Yeah, and we're thrilled to be working with you as well. And this is the other thing that occurs to me, and just in addition to wanting to create work and keep the art form going, this is a project that's also employing artists in the community, and that's important at this point in time. It's always important, but it's particularly important now. How many artists do you think will be brought into this process overall? Do we have an idea of the impact?
I'm going to take a wild guess. Claire may have a better idea than me, but we'll all get to this number. I have about 20. I mean,
yeah, 20 or 25 is my read too. Right, yeah. Right. Depending on the size of the casts that come out of these micro commissions. I like that word, micro commissions, that we've moved forward with. So if the casts are reasonable size, it'll be 25, I think, by the time it's all said and done.
And maybe that kind of sparks off. We should talk a little bit about the sort of process and how Homegrown will work. And I'm excited. I think it means so much to be able to have these partnerships, to have two arts organizations, coming together to support the artist community. So we mentioned our 5 playwrights, and we've sort of given them free rein to over the course of a month write 10-minute plays that are inspired by America today. And so, we'll be receiving drafts shortly, and we'll have a chance to get to look at those, and then are hoping to present some or all of them in a digital format. So we'll partner each play with actors, with the director, but also bring in some hopeful technical elements of digital background and scenic design and sound, and do a digital presentation in early August. And we've been, lucky to collaborate in all of this. Drew, Stephen, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but that's sort of the trajectory of the process. So it'll be about 25 artists that we'll be able to pay and bring into this process.
Well, I think go ahead.
I think you've encapsulated it very nicely. The important thing is, for me, is that these artists that we've commissioned have a chance to really, in a very short time, but in the now, create work that is not just, it speaks to the now, but also will be presented in the now. So often when you're a playwright, you write a play and you work on it and it's developed, and it's months and years before it's produced, but this is in the now because it is speaking to the now and to the moment that we're in. And it's just important that through this digital format, we're able to launch these things very, very quickly. And that's an exciting proposition for theater artists in general.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think, sort of in the idea that with every crisis, there's an opportunity. What this is, the opportunity here, I think, is for us, again, as performing arts organizations, to shift. The opportunity is to think about how technology can allow us to shift the way that we create and share our work in this pandemic, in a way. I mean, what's really kind of cut us to the core as arts organization is that it's cut us off at the knees, is that we're not able to gather, right? I mean, what do we do with with a discipline and organizations, which all we ever think about are how to bring people together in a common space. We can't do that right now, or it's really, really hard. And so I think the technological solutions for this is the way that we're just on the ground floor of this, but I think this is kind of a beta test for how we can maybe work into this in the future. And who knows what we learn here and over the course of the next several months might inform the way that we share our work even into the future, well beyond this pandemic running its course.
I think also that at this point in time, you know, the whole field is so stressed that these kinds of partnerships between organizations and institutions are increasingly important and will be part of how we work our way through this. So we're grateful to you for reaching out to us and including us in the project. And we thank you for joining us today on CT Live.
Thank you.
That's great.
I
Thanks.
can't wait to see the scripts come in. And
Well, neither can we. Now, like, yeah, we can all hear. It's like
that's happening like right away. I mean, it's right around the corner. We should be getting scripts very soon. So we're excited about it.
Well, looking forward to seeing you virtually and you know, crossing rivers and getting to share more with our audiences. So thank you to Stephen and Drew, and we'll see you soon.
You will.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Righto.
So next, we're excited. We're one of the things that we've been working on over the summer is actually expanding the network that we're able to introduce you to. So I'm going to bring on my colleague Montez Freeland, our associate producer, to join me for this next segment.
Hello.
Hey, Montez.
Can you hear me?
How's it going?
Awesome. Going well.
I feel like your backdrop's improving. You got plants now.
Yeah, I have plants now. I feel fancy. If only it were real, but it's not. So yeah.
So one of the things that we've been really excited about, just got to share this press release today, is that we've added a couple of new board members at City Theater. And so we're so excited to welcome Delvina to join us.
Hello, hi.
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 So this is actually our first chance to meet virtually. So Delvina, welcome to the City Theater Board, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's nice for Montez and I to get to meet you over Zoom, as well as introduce you to the CT Live audience. So we're wondering if maybe we could just turn it over to you to share a little bit about both your professional bio, but also how you came to the city of Pittsburgh.
Definitely. Well, thank you both for having me and the entire City Theater team. I'm excited to be here as a new board member. So just a little background about me. I'm actually originally from New York City. So I grew up in New York and relocated to Pittsburgh about 6 years ago. During my time in New York, I served as a fundraising and nonprofit development professional. So working for nonprofits, helping them to not only fundraising, but working with board members to help teach them how to best use their voice and their platform to support the organizations in which they were working for. I relocated to Pittsburgh. My husband is from here, and I've been actually working with the Pittsburgh Penguins for almost a year this August. So I am our Director of Strategic and Community Initiatives. And so I work on all external facing projects tied to our Lower Hill redevelopment site. So not only am I working on our development, but a lot of really great, impactful community related programs, and also at times serving as a liaison to our foundation.
That's amazing, and we're both transplants. I moved out here from New York, where I was for 10 years.
It's okay.
Yeah, and I'm from Baltimore.
Okay, awesome.
I was up in Inwood in Upper Manhattan.
Okay, nice. I grew up in Harlem, so.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite part of Pittsburgh or a favorite thing to do here in the city?
Yeah, well, we live in the South Side, so we,
Oh, cool.
we love living in the South Side, and so in terms of the South Side, we really love to do that river walk. So we try to do that very early in the morning when there aren't so many people out, especially right now. So that would be one of our favorite things outdoors to do right now.
Awesome. You gave us some great insight into your work with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that's so exciting. And I used to live in the Lower Hills, so it's great to know that that area is going to get some good attention. How, coming over to City Theater, can you kind of explain from your perspective the role of the board and its significance in theater, as you've had work on many boards, I'm sure?
Yeah, and so this is my first time working or serving on a board that is theater focused, and I'm really excited about that. You know, for me, when I first experienced City Theater, you know, after the show, my husband and I had such riveting conversation, and it never ended. And you know, there was this need to want more and to learn and to do more research after that show. And so, you know, for me, as a board member, I believe, you know, our number one goal is to advance the mission. And then, you know, also as a new board member, it's looking at how I can lend my voice, my experience, my expertise to further amplify really all of the work that's going on at City Theater. You know, so it was mentioned that, you know, there's more focus on infusing community into City Theater. And obviously that is something that I do through my work and something I've always been very passionate about. So I'm excited as a board member, really just to, you know, get to work and start helping out wherever I can.
We're so excited to have you on board, and I think that nexus of community, and also I can't wait to you know, grab virtual or maybe even in-person cocktails and talk about transplanting and how what it is like to kind of jump into Pittsburgh as a new community member, and how theater can, you know, hopefully forge some new connections.
Definitely. And, you know, when I relocated, it was probably a year or a year and a half in which I met Diane on the City Theater team, and she invited, you know, he was my boyfriend then, but husband now, to a play. And, you know, that was one thing I thought I was missing in relocating. I was like, there is theater here, but I just didn't know because I was still new. And so discovering this whole new world for me, and I was living in the South Side at the time as well. It was just very exciting. And now to really be a part of that and to help, again, advance our mission is something I'm really looking forward to do.
Well, we're thrilled to have you at City and a new team member, and just excited for the year to come. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the show today. And we look forward to more soon.
Definitely. Well, thank you again so much for having me, and I look forward to staying engaged with everyone here.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye, Delvina.
All right, that was wonderful. Like, that's so cool. I think that some people may not, you know, fully get like how, maybe not how easy it is, but how we can all kind of serve on boards of different organizations that we care about, you know, or that inhabit something that we really like, and then we can go and serve and give back to the community. So that was inspiring to me. I'm gonna go join a board somewhere.
It's so valuable, and really truly, you know, sometimes we don't get a chance to publicly celebrate our board members, so it just means a lot, and we're just so grateful for all of their contributions to City Theater. So I'm actually going to turn it over to you and disappear off screen for a moment, I think, as we bring Mark back on, because one of the other things that we wanted to share is some of what's been going on at City over the summer while we've been dark. So I'm going to disappear and then very quickly bring on Tony Ferreri, our director of production.
Yeah, it's as James and I were saying earlier, it's been, you know, it's such an odd time because we're not in full production in our theaters, but I think we've never been busier at the same time. And we've had so many plays and workshop and rehearsal and so much activity in our facility once we were able to kind of come back to work. And we're particularly proud of the work that's happened in the production area. And it's not an area that's necessarily visible to most of our audience. They don't maybe know all of what goes into building the sets and the props and the costumes and, you know, all of the backstage work that occurs. So we want to take a moment to celebrate what we've been able to accomplish over the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I think, and it's a remarkable thing. So, Tony and Rachel, if you would join us on the screen. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm great, and there's Rachel too. Thanks, both of you for your leadership and getting City Theater on its game during this really challenging time. And I want to say that not only have we accomplished a lot, but we developed some safety protocols as to how people could work in this environment. Is very challenging, I think, to think about how to keep all of our staff safe as possible as we undertook these tasks. So keep that in mind too, as you talk about what we've been able to accomplish over the last several months. Can you take us through kind of an overview of what you've been doing?
Sure. Normally, when we're in production, it's a very fast-paced schedule, so we don't really have time to sort of get our ducks in order, but that's what we've been doing, especially trying to get ready for hopefully producing some plays on stage some point in time. But we've been spending a lot of time reorganizing, basically. We started out striking the set for Cry It Out, which was still on stage, obviously, from the show not finishing its run. Then we changed over the main stage to proscenium and reset the space so it would be ready for a production coming up, whenever that might happen. We also had to strike light, sound, and props and set from Perk Up, which was, I would say, 90% built and in the space, which never got to perform. We reset the Hamburg, so it was ready for production. We spent some time on the exterior of the building doing a little bit of cleanup and cleaning up the landscape a little bit. We did a lot of general maintenance just around the building. There were a lot of things that just needed to be taken care of. We painted the green room in the main stage and the rehearsal, the dressing rooms and the belfry. Brad and Greg have spent a lot of time reorganizing all of the lighting and sound equipment and getting all of our inventories in order for production. We completed and reorganized and moved and set up all of the shops. The new prop shop is set up. The scene shop is set up. We've moved and reorganized all the hand props from storage and moved them to the basement of the Morris building. We moved all the chairs and small tables to the new scene shop and used the mezzanine space above the scene shop to store those things. We're still working on completing moving all of the large furniture and appliances to our old scene shop temporarily until we find some other storage space for that. So we've been a little busy. And hopefully this move is going to make us more efficient because we won't be spending so much time going back and forth from storage. Everything is sort of on campus, which is making me very happy. So that's what we've been up to.
Rachel, do you have anything to add to Tony's description of what's been happening?
I think that covered everything.
Well, while we've been doing this, we've also been putting plans in place for the fall, and we have some exciting announcements coming up, which we're not quite ready to do yet. But there's been a phenomenal amount of work that's gone into developing, particularly safety protocols, but also all of the logistics of how we might be producing once we're able to do that. So. I want to thank you both. I think we have some visuals here.
You have some photos of.
And I'm not sure how that's going to unfold. Who's going to do that?
Claire's working on that right now.
It's about to unfold.
It's about to unfold. So while it's unfolding, I'll just say that Tony, in addition to being a really talented and great designer and, the longest term employee of City Theater, you were also a pack rat. And these photos.
These photos will show that.
Demonstrate your hoarding, your tendencies. So anyway, let's take a look at everything. If you want to comment as the pictures go by, go ahead.
Sure. So this is our new production center, which we're finally in. and we're happy about that. That's the scene shop and the paint shop that we've moved. You can see chairs up in the right-hand corner that are hanging off the mezzanine. And this is in the paint shop as well. You can see all the storage up on top of the mezzanine. More chairs stored above the mezzanine. This is the scene shop itself. This is more of the scene shop with more chairs stored, and also on the right are new racks to store all of our platforms, windows, doors, and sundry flooring, things like that. And then now this is our new basement prop storage space. As you can see, we got a long aisle full of boxes. Those are all hand props. And on the right, that's the lighting area that has all the lighting equipment, all of the practical lighting equipment, lamps and things like that. And we have benches and stools and chairs and baskets. Everything you could always want to put on stage.
I saw it yesterday. It's so impressive, and it's great to see how organized it is too.
We're trying.
Absolutely. Well, thank you and congratulations to both of you on a job well done. And we have a lot to look forward to. And once we're able to do it, it's going to make it so much easier.
It will. It will.
In addition to that, I guess we should say, Rachel, that lights and sound have also been working through this period, going through inventory. You want to speak to some of the other activities, the costume shop, for example?
Yeah, we've also been busy. I know that Madison, our costume shop manager, has made over 200 masks, cloth masks that we're using currently for staff and we'll use in the future. Brad and Greg in Sound and Lights have been, like, as you mentioned, doing inventory, but also maintenance. As Tony was mentioning, a lot of times we don't have the amount of time we'd like to do maintenance projects. So having the time now to go in and one by one fix lighting instruments and perform maintenance that will keep them running longer, it has been really useful.
Yeah, I think people may not realize a lot of our lighting inventory in particular is over 30 years old. And so, it's as things age, as we all age, they need a little more maintenance, and Greg's been able to do that. So we're grateful for the entire production team and making our work possible and better. And so once again, thank you both, and congratulations. And let's move on with our program here. I think we're going to bring Montez back. And I know that Montez was put out a call for questions in the community for people who wanted to ask us things. And Montez, I'm going to leave this to you to kind of lead us through some of the questions and the answers. And thank you for doing that. I'm going to sign off until it's time for me to come back. Thank you.
Sure. No problem, Mark. So upon joining City Theater recently, I will always consider myself to be a member of the artistic community here in Pittsburgh. And so I wanted to just create an opportunity for City Theater to be transparent during these, as we have been during this time, but to continue to, even before we take a little bit of a break from seeing us every week here on CT Live. So we put a call out to questions, and we've got some really cool questions from the public. And so we are going to go through those and hopefully answer some things that may have been on your mind. So I'm going to bring Rachel back on for our first question. And hey, Rachel. And so we had a question come in, which came from a stage manager, really asking, how do we see the role of the stage manager evolving with COVID-19? And will there be any type of changes as far as like protocol and as to what their duties would require once we can start, meeting and performing again?
Yeah. So As the medical community learns more about this virus, our ideas about best practices are evolving. So figuring out the best way to proceed and how roles should adapt is going to be an ongoing process. I know in the time that we've been working on our safety protocols, we've already had some changes made that came out of new information. So temperature checks and tracking are one part of city theater screening procedures, but that won't be a part of stage management's responsibilities because we have enough to do, as always.
Yes.
And because all of the screening, and all of the screening procedures that we're going to do will happen at the artist's point of entry to the facilities. So it will be even before they get to the rehearsal room. I don't think the fundamental role of stage management is going to change, but I imagine that, you know, the safety responsibilities that already fall under stage management's purview will expand to include some COVID-related guidelines. We don't know exactly what that will look like quite yet. There's still some ongoing conversations between theaters and actors' equity, but it could look like stage managers being in charge of enforcing social distancing or physical distancing and mask wearing. It could look like, you know, making sure they're talking to the theater about what disinfection supplies they need, what they need more of, choreographing backstage patterns to allow for distance and added protocols and potentially additional disinfection of props and things that get touched. But again, we're not 100% sure yet. You know, and it goes without saying, this is a whole new world that we're working in. And, you know, the theater has its guidelines, but I think there's stage management and the theater will need to plan collaboratively and then be ready to adapt those plans to the reality of any given production, because of course each production will have its own needs. So the short answer is we think we might have an idea. We're not sure yet, but we will collaborate as we get more information about the best way, best practices.
Yeah, you're doing, you know, we're doing the work. A lot of these questions may not have full answers at the moment, but, you know, but we're doing the work to try to investigate how to move forward. You know, maybe stage managers will be happy to know they might not have to make as much coffee anymore, you know, 18 times a day.
Well, that's funny you say that, because one of the things we are looking at is not having shared food and needing to have, all beverages need to have a top or a lid. So there are small changes associated with that we anticipate happening.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad we were able to give some attention to the heroes of theater, who most of the time the public never really gets the chance to see. So, so thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. So we received a second question that came in. You know, really being encouraged by City Theater's leadership and acknowledgement in just complicity in general and white fragility and supremacy in the U.S. and especially in theater. And so I want to bring on Claire, who maybe can talk about the answer to this question, which is what active steps are being taken to address those actions beyond contrition?
Absolutely. Thanks, Montez, for bringing me on for this. And I think it's such an important question. And we are taking active steps to change. But, you know, I think this is something that all theaters, you know, there's more work to be done and to do. And that's, you know, an important thing to acknowledge. You know, that question, I think, is in part specifically referring to, and we'll post this in the comments link, an organization and collective of BIPOC theater makers across the industry who wrote a letter that's, you know, loosely inspired by August Wilson's The Ground on Which We Stand. It's called We See You, White American Theater. And so I just want to post that as kind of in in reference for our viewers to what we're talking about. And I'm here, in the capacity as one of the co-chairs of City's EDIA committee, and that stands for Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. So I'm answering on behalf of the committee, and in addition to my co-chair, Madison Hack, we have about 7 staff and leadership members of the committee. And I also just feel it's important to acknowledge that, I'm a white ally myself, and I'm certainly complicit and continuing to learn. But, it's not a new conversation at City Theater. I would say formally over the past year and a half, we formed the EDIA committee, and that's, comprised, as I mentioned, of both staff and leadership, which I think is really important. And, the committee has done a number of actions and will continue to do more so, but, that includes supporting internal staff and board training, beginning the process of an organizational assessment with an independent outside consultant. We're also actively working to diversify our board and crafting hiring practices to provide resources and ensure diversity in all staff position searches. I think, that's part of it. And then it also expands into the work on our stages. So, the theater is working to center the creative work of Black, Indigenous, and people of color theater makers in commissioning, development, season planning, and production. So that's part of all of the art that we do. And we've also made a commitment to ensuring diversity of race and gender in the artists, that's playwrights, designers, directors, actors, technician that work on each City Theater season. And we're also in the process of crafting a written plan outlining those goals and details. So we're committed to transparency, which I think is just incredibly important in that process, and being able to share those plans and also analyze our practices so we can hold ourselves accountable. The theaters also the theater's leadership was also provided matching funds to donations that have been made by City Theater staff and to organizations that are working to advance Black Lives Matter and social and racial justice and protester support. So I think all of those things are encompassed under the activities that we've been doing. And it's just a start. It's really important, I think, as the question points out, to acknowledge our complicity. And there's a lot of more work to be done in the coming years. But City's committed to creating actionable change to combat racism and structural inequalities in the theater, and living up to our core values, which do include EDIA and community. So I hope that's a start to answering that question, and that we'll be able to provide more details later.
For sure. Yes, I think that was a wonderful start. For sure. No. I think that is great. I think that it's, from the outside, from anyone on the outside perspective, you're going to always have your opinion, and we never know what's actually happening inside of institutions. So I'm grateful that the City Theater is taking those steps. We're taking those steps toward the right side of justice. And so I'm also glad that people are asking, because it holds us accountable, myself as well, to make sure that I am walking within the edicts of EDIA, and trying to take that into my life and into the world, because that's where we also can make that difference.
Yeah, and I think it's also just like that idea of transparency, and that we haven't been talking about the work that we've been doing internally, and it's really important to be able to share that and receive feedback on it.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you, Claire. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
I appreciate you answering that question. Of course. So we're going to move on to Mr. Mark Masterson, who's going to come on. And I have a feeling an actor asked this question, but how do you see, or maybe a monitor, how do you see auditions happening in the future, which is, I know, a time that we don't necessarily want to talk about the future, but in this new world, how do you kind of see auditionings forming?
Well, we've already taken the first step in that new world of auditioning, which was, every year we do equity principal auditions, both in New York and in Pittsburgh. And so we hold a general audition that any union member can apply to audition. And we worked with our partner in New York through our casting agency, Pat McCorkle Casting, to hold our digital equity EPAs in New York. I think she said she had 10,000 submissions overall in a digital format, not just for City Theater's EPA, but actors in New York, you know, are looking to make use of this technology, and there's an increasing use of digital technology in the audition process itself. So we had a very good turnout. We reviewed all of those auditions. We also did a call for local artists, both equity and non-equity. People submitted their auditions to us, and we all watched them. We watched every single one of them, most of them twice, or, you know, several people reviewing them. So it was a good turnout. It was a good way for us to sort of survey the pool. We also know that there are actors in town and who didn't give us a digital audition, and most cases we know them all, and not in all cases. So, you know, the door is still open, and we will continue to explore opportunities for all of the artists affiliated with City Theater as we move through the year. Right now, we don't have any productions announced. So, you know, the question is sort of on hold until we're ready to go back into rehearsals. And there, as I said earlier, there will be an announcement about that pending very soon.
Thank you, Mark. You know, it's really good to hear that. What you brought up is basically that actors now have an advantage of being able to be accessible to City Theater who may not have had that in the past. You know, if they live in another state or something like that, where in a way actors can get into rooms you know, a little quicker during all of this. You know, so we were just doing the work to make sure that those rooms are going to happen. You know, so thank you so much. I appreciate you answering that and sitting through a lot of tapes, because that's a whole lot. So thanks for doing that. All right, so we have one more question for today, and we're going to bring on James to answer this one. And
it must have something to do with business, Montez.
It must have something to do with some business and some contracts, right?
I don't get the auditions question.
You know, Jay, I want to see you audition. I want to see you in a show. No. You have such a rich personality, and you're so quick and so smart. And maybe improv. We won't get you in the improv.
We'll see what happens.
We've been talking about this City Theater talent show. I heard
well,
that. Don't give me time. But our last question came in, and it really wanted to know what City plans to do in the future to ensure that contracts moving forward are equitable. And keeping in mind like the safety protocols, and also how that would affect the local community.
Yeah, well, first off, I just want to say it's so great having an artist like yourself on staff now, because I think that being that liaison and making sure that the artists are always front of mind, you know, in every aspect of what we do, you know, you will be there, you will hold us to account. And I think that's great. And I feel like this question may have come from an artist as well. And so there's a lot of different answers, but I think I want to speak briefly, just more broadly, about equity and pay across the field. And I think this is one of the challenges that the COVID-19 crisis is really shining a light on, is the financial challenges that so many who work in the theater face. It's been announced across the country that there are shutdowns that stretch for months and months and months before there will be work. And how do people get healthcare in those situations? How do they find a way to live? And I think that it's showing that this is a deeply underfunded field across the board, in every department, administrative, production, artistic, that we really need to have a reckoning, I think, in our field around this issue. At City Theater, one of the parts that we talked a lot about in our strategic plan, which we approved in February, was to really take a hard look at salaries and how we pay our artists and our staff, the backbone of what we do. And I think we as an organization have a real commitment to make sure that we are always doing better than what the minimum is. So as you know, as a union member, there are minimum standards for designers, directors, and actors. We want to be better than that. And we want to always make sure we're doing that. There's negotiated rates that go in. So that's a commitment we have on the artist side. At the same time, looking at our staff and making sure that we are able to, and when we can, to really invest in the people. Our labor pool, our personnel cost is by far the most expensive part about our business, and that's the way it should be. But we have to stay current. And in light of COVID and in light of this current crisis, we all need to be hypersensitive and aware that we do not, in any way, shape, or form, undermine the importance of what folks bring. You know, we've talked a lot about this, making sure we compensate artists for our virtual content, that nobody's giving away their talent for free. And that has to be our way moving forward. I think in the same breath, there was a question there about safety and how does that work in. And I think it's really important. I'm not entirely certain what the question exactly meant, but my interpretation of that is hearing from City Theater, and this is our commitment, that we are committed to safety. Rachel and Mark mentioned it earlier. We've developed a safety plan. We are going to hold our feet to the fire about that safety plan because no one should feel unsafe coming to work. And we need to be incredibly, as a field, we need to be incredibly flexible with folks as everybody evolves and has different reactions to this crisis. And so it's a commitment of ours to make sure that we follow not just what the rules are by the letter of that law, that we do better, because we have to be better.
James, I thank you. I thank you very much. That's a great answer. You know, I think that thinking about the fact that COVID really did shine a light as to how folks are surviving and how people have survived throughout the years with little to nothing. You know, how do we make this world equitable, especially in this business, to keep pushing forward so that people are paid what they should be paid and appropriately.
I really would encourage, one of the things, there was the CARES Act that came out of Congress at the beginning of this crisis that covered, it was huge. It covered the SBA, it covered a lot of different areas of our economy. But one of its most important parts was the federal investment in unemployment across the country in the different states. And it allowed an extra $600 for folks on unemployment to help to get through this moment. Well, it's been, I think, it was a wonderful move by Congress. I'm grateful that they did it. I think it's been a real game changer in keeping people fed and the lights on. But that expires August 1st, unless there's a change in Congress. I'm going to leave an ellipsis there. People can fill in the blank about what I think they should do and say about that. But, particularly for our field, but not just in our sector, there are a lot of folks that this crisis doesn't end on August 1st. And we need to be mindful for that. And how do we make sure that people are able to weather this financially is critical.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those thoughts, James. Appreciate that. So I think now we also want to thank everyone who sent in questions, and I just want to thank the staff for taking the time to curate answers and for being so transparent during this time, because it's a pretty hard time to be transparent, but it's also a great time to continue that tradition. So I think we almost made it a full hour. So we're going to bring on everybody who has been a part of this, who's on the call right now. And, I just want to say, thank you. I'm glad that, I want to thank Claire and Nikki for having trusted me to run some of this sometimes. But Claire has been, and Nikki and everyone's been working so hard over the past few months to keep this content into the world. So that's been awesome. So if anybody else wants to add anything, now Brady Bunch goodbye.
No, really, I mean, just to say thank you, Montez. You said at some point in time you wanted to host a talk show, so welcome to the City Theater team. But just a huge thank you to all of our guests, to all of our viewers. We hope everyone gets a little holiday break. And we'll be back more soon with some exciting announcements, we hope. Mark or James, do you have anything you want to add before we officially wave goodbye and maybe dance and crack open a bottle of champagne for our season finale?
We've been ending these CT Live sessions with a section we call Good News, and it's just talking about something positive that has come out of the previous week. And I think this week especially, the good news is the City Theater staff, the incredible work that everyone has done to make our work better and to give us a sense of purpose and direction. So thank you to you, Claire, to Montez, to Tony, to Nikki, and you, James, and the whole City Theater staff, everyone who's not on this call. That's the good news for the week. Thank you all.
To our guests today, thank you for joining us. It really was wonderful. We appreciate you. I love our new final special guest who's here, and I'm going to let them do the final wave. But cheers to everyone. Stay safe. We will get through this, and we look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.